Welcome back to another episode of the UIS Coaches Show. I'm Michael Iota. As always, joined by Olivia, Lett, head coach of the women's basketball team. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Surrey Stars wrapped up their final road trip this past weekend at Upper Iowa and at Lewis. And Coach, we'll talk about this first game at Upper Iowa first. We knew this was going to be a tough road trip, a couple tough places, a couple really good teams in our league. First game up at Upper Iowa, 77-53 loss. Just a tough one overall in this one. Talk a little bit about what you thought kind of went off in this game a little bit, because this one was a tough road game.
Yeah, I think we struggled to really get into our defense. Their point guards did a good job of changing the sides of the floor on us, which makes it tough for us to really get into the speed that we want to go and create some of those turnovers that we're trying to get to. And they did a great job out of transition too. I think both games this weekend there was a couple shooters that kind of went off, and it started on Thursday, and we knew that that's what she did, and she did a great job, knocked down some open shots, some of them in transition, some of them early in the offense, and that just makes it tough to really then sit down and buy into the defensive side of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. We were going to talk a little bit about that. There was a couple individual performances, and the star performances were really the big difference this weekend, right? We had Mia Huberty on Thursday night with Upper Iowa, who's just a fantastic. We've seen her at track here. And then Taylor Guluzia from Lewis, who went off for 33 on Saturday. But on the flip side, our star, Kayla Rice, who's kind of been the person that kind of stirs the drink for us, she struggled both games. So I thought that was really a big impact in both of those games of having, the best players on one team really show out and kind of struggle a little bit. What were kind of your thoughts on how they defended Kayla, or kind of what was going on with that, with her performances this weekend? Not quite what we're used to seeing out of her.
Yeah, I think one of those things is just our depth. To be able to get some rest sometimes, get our legs under, have that freedom of maybe not being perfect on a given night. Right now when you've got 8 healthy bodies, you don't have some of that. It's a little bit tough to be able to sit somebody down and get them some rest and get them ready to go. And we're late in the season at this point in time, and we've got a lot of young kids, and I think that's something where when you go from high school to college, just the length of the season really starts to get to you, and it feels different. And so it's getting yourself used to playing the type of minutes we are, and then our style has changed a little bit, and so those expectations this late in the season, I think you're seeing some tired legs. You're seeing something that just is a little bit different, and so for us, it's bouncing back and really having that excitement going into this weekend.
Yeah, and you had a chance. Let's talk a little bit about barometers, because Lewis game, Lewis is one of the best teams in the league, right, and on the road. Talk a little bit about watching that game Saturday from your perspective versus maybe seeing this team in Kansas City when they played William Jewell back, which seems like forever ago, right?
Yeah.
What's the growth of this team that you saw?
Lewis did some really good stuff against us that just picked on our help side. And, at one point in time, Sarah Murphy was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, well, you're doing it right. We just have to get to step 2 now. It's not necessarily what you're doing, where we've got some, Taylor hit some really tough contested threes. Some of them were wide open, but some of them were really, really contested. She's a great shooter. And, they picked on our help side, and that's where we've got to continue to have growth, right? It's way better than where we were when we were at William Jewell. We couldn't keep a team on a side. We didn't really understand the idea of team defense, and so we're a step further. It's just that we haven't gotten to that step often enough to understand where that following step goes. Where's the help of that help side? And how do we adjust out of some of those things and understand when people are just trying to bait us into things? Jenna Badali did a great job of just kind of picking on that help side, getting in there, reading it, and finding the wide open shooter. And they're a very experience-heavy team, and I think that really showed in that game. And they shot an unbelievable percentage on senior night, and clearly we're fired up. And so that's just kind of, you tip your cap and move on. And like I said, get excited for this weekend. Yeah,
absolutely. We got William Jewell coming in on Thursday night, and we just referenced that matchup, which seems like so long ago. Just seems like a completely different team from there. It was a 74-68 loss out there. I think that was one of those games where you had talked about it mid-year that we weren't sure how to win games quite yet, right? And we just needed to get some more experience and be able to do that. I think if you play that same game in January or February, we probably have a road win. So looking forward to now having them back at home in a few months and a little bit more experience. How excited are you for this matchup and being able to try to square the even series with them?
Yeah, that was a tough stretch. We had 4 games in 8 days, and 3 of them were on the road coming out of Thanksgiving. Dee Dee rolled her ankle when we were there, and so there was just a lot going on. And a young team trying to learn a new style, and so watching the film is a little hard because it's like, wow, like we looked a lot different at that point in time in the year. And so I hope that we look a lot different this weekend, and that we're ready to go for that and really execute our style. It's late in the season. You've got a lot of emotions going into this weekend, and kind of knowing that we're not in the conference tournament, it really just changes a little bit of perspective of what does this week look like? How do we go into those last couple games? So it's trying to get everybody on the same page, get them excited to finish strong, and hopefully finish on a really good foot.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about it, the emotions of this week. Of course, Saturday against Rockhurst is senior day. We talked a little bit about our seniors last week in our coaches show. But we're going to spend the rest of our time talking a little bit about that. It is such a special week. It's sometimes a hard week. You never know how players are going to kind of react and go from that. You talked a little bit about what you want to get out of this week. What do you want to get out of this week, especially for your seniors?
Yeah, those two have really led us in terms of intensity at times, and they've done things the right way this year. They go out there and really, what you're going to get from them every night on an effort side of things. It's something where that has not been a question for us. Are there things that maybe we'd love to get cleaner at or a little bit sharper at? Yeah, absolutely. That's anybody though, and so I think these two have been that staple for us of just going out there and playing hard. Sahara Murphy did an unbelievable job this weekend, and that was one of the things we talked about in a lot of breaks and a lot of huddles was, she was all over the place still and 20-point losses. And just to see someone play with that type of heart, like just a true competitor. And I think Nia has come on so much towards the second half of the season especially, and gained some of that confidence. She was always confident in transition, but now just confidence and understanding what's a great shot for her. She's, I think, leading the league or very close to it in terms of field goal percentage, and that's not something that I think we would have necessarily expected at the beginning of the year. And so she's really honed in on that and focused on that part of it of taking great shots and not just forcing things up and working harder to find great shots. And those two's connection and transition, hopefully we see a lot of that this weekend.
Yeah. We know what they do on the court. You did a great job of kind of giving us a little bit more in depth on the court, but you think those things that are on the court, like Sahara's intensity and Nia's personality and her willingness to be really self-aware and all those kind of things. Talk a little bit about how you think those are going to translate for the next stage of life for these young ladies, right? When they leave here, being distinguished alumni of UIS and going out into the world and being productive human beings, because ultimately that's what it's all about, is making sure. And of course, your culture, you always talk about greater than 94, right? It's about building them to make sure that you're going to that next level and being great people. How do you think what they've done on the court is going to help them go in life?
Yeah, I think in a season like this where there's a lot to learn and a lot of new stuff, I think sometimes it's easy for that to get overlooked a little bit, right? And these two have shown that they really just know how to do things right. Murph is the one that is constantly looking around, seeing what needs to be done, seeing what needs to get carried, and just finding a way to get things done. And that's a skill, to be able to look around, see what 100%. Needs done, and just do it, and take it upon yourself. And I think that gets heavy sometimes, and she's really good at that as a senior, especially on a team that hasn't won a ton, to still just take on those roles that a lot of people wouldn't want to. And I think that, between the two of them, Nia's been great when we've had recruits here and been able to make them feel very engaged and make them feel like this is somewhere that they want to be. And those are things that, I think that career-wise, they'll probably go slightly different paths, but to see both of them already kind of be aware of who they are and what they want out of things, is cool, and it'll be interesting to see kind of where they decide to go next year and what they decide to do. Yeah.
That senior day, you've been through so many of these senior days, in your time in Milliken and now your first one here at UIS. What do you tell your seniors on senior day? What do you tell your team on there? What's the message to the team? What do you try to get across to make sure that they experience on that final game?
Yeah, it's been interesting with COVID because you never really know whether or not it's someone's last game, right, or their senior day.
True. Very true.
And so that's made it weird for the last couple of years. But I think the other thing is, it's about them really enjoying that day, especially for us the last few years. We knew we were going to continue playing. We knew we had a conference tournament. We knew we had an NCAA tournament. And so it was a little bit different because it was really about like, make sure you enjoy this day. Make sure that you enjoy these relationships because, we're going to get back to business after this. This one it's really about like enjoying this day and giving it everything you got because it is the last shot. And a lot of people don't realize what that feels like until it's gone. As far as women's basketball has come, as far as all the attention that's come, women don't have that many opportunities after they graduate to play basketball. It's not like you just walk in a gym and there's a bunch of women playing pickup basketball. And so it feels a lot more final after you get done than I think what it does for men sometimes. And so it's about really enjoying those last few moments of getting to play a game that you love and around people that you care about, whether it's that they're in the stands, whether it's not that they're on the bench with you, surrounded by a bunch of people that have watched you give everything you had for this game.
Yeah, that's some great insight there. Again, this weekend, final homestand, we'll play William Jewell at 5:30 on Thursday night, and then of course Senior Day, 1 p.m. at Rockhurst. We'll celebrate and honor 2 great seniors that have given everything to UIS, and like Coach Lett has let us on here to talk a little bit about these 2 and their impact. So it'd be great to have everybody come out, celebrate them, be able to honor their accomplishments in that final home game on Saturday afternoon against Rockhurst. Again, that's at 1 p.m. For head coach Olivia Lett, I'm Michael Iota. This has been the UIS Coaches Show.